Good morning and welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for joining us today. I hope you're ready for this great adventure with Joshua and Pip. I hope you're ready and we'll see if we can find Calvin the Catfish. Good morning to you and welcome. Please let us know where you're joining from and who is joining in with you. Yes, the adventures of Joshua and Pip. Calvin the Catfish. Good morning to you. And this one is by John Light Jr. and illustrations by Jamie R. Gandy. Good morning to you and welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for joining us today. And we are in for a ride. We're in for a treat. So please get your fishing gear and get ready for some outdoor fun. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining us as always. Anna Lima, the first one in the door today. Good morning to you. How are you doing out in Evanston, Illinois? Good morning to you. Thank you for joining in. And very, very happy to see you here. Thank you so much. Amanda Frank, good morning to you. Please let us know who is joining in with you and where indeed you're joining us from. Sheba Chanda, good morning to you. All the way out in Lusaka, Zambia, joining in with Benjamin. Good evening to you. How are you doing out in Lusaka? Madelina, Iron, and Tudor right here in San Francisco next door. Good morning to you. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining in today. I hope you're ready for the adventures of Joshua and Pip. And this one is Calvin the Catfish. Good morning to you. How are you doing today? Anna Lima, glad you could make it. Thank you so much for joining in. Sarah Craig, where are you joining us from and who is joining in with you? Welcome to Storytime. Rachel Reed Mudenda in El Paso, Texas. Good morning to you. And of course, please remind me who is joining in with you. Rachel Reed Mudenda, thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Good to see you here. Yes, indeed, long-time member of the Storytime community. Maeve and Stella, how are you today? All the way out in Michigan, and you're joining in with Amanda Frank. Oh, I'm so happy you're here, Maeve and Stella. Good morning to you. How are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining in. How's Michigan today? Ellen Edwards in Chicago, good morning to you. How are you today? Soraya, I saw that you caught our reading yesterday afterwards. Well, I'm glad you're still able to catch it, and I'm even happier you're here live with us today. How are you doing today, Soraya? Good morning to you, and of course, good morning to you, Sharon Lungo, as well. Thank you so much for joining in Story Time. Ellen, good morning to you one more time, and you're saying, of course, you're joining us from Chicago. How are you doing? How is Chicago today? Amanda West, Sarah, and Nathan out in Illinois. Good morning to you. Welcome to Storytime. Thank you so much for joining in. And of course, to everybody that is joining in after the recording, I hope you enjoy this story. Remember that John Light Jr. and Jamie R. Gandy did bring us Joshua and Pip, the original, The Adventures of Joshua and Pip. We read that on Storytime, and please do look out for the Spanish version of that today. And of course, today we're reading The Adventures of Joshua and Pip, Part 2, Calvin the Catfish. So I hope you enjoy that one. And of course, do check out the link below and see where you can get yourself a copy. Yes, oh indeed, you can borrow it from your local library. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime today. I hope you're ready for this story. I am excited to share it with you. Another exciting story right here for you on Storytime. Thank you so much for joining in this morning. Jesse Tangum Kwaila and Milena Raiba, how are you doing today? Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Laura, how are you today? Thank you for joining in. Cosby, haven't seen you in a minute. Cullen, how are you doing? Good morning to you. Out in Delaware, Ohio, how are you doing today? Thank you so much for joining in. Good to see you, Cosby. And Cullen, I hope you are well too. Thank you so much for joining in Storytime. Good to see you. Thank you so much. All right, good morning to you. Story time is here and we're getting ready for our story. Let us get started with The Adventures of Joshua and Pip. And this one is part 2, Calvin the Catfish. And it's written by Jamie It's written by John Light Jr. and illustrations by Jamie R. Gandy. So let us get started with our story. Are you ready? Get your fishing gear. Time to go fishing. All right. And a big thank you, of course, to John Light Jr. for allowing us to share this amazing book with the Storytime community. Thank you so much. Yes, it is The Adventures of Joshua and Pip, Calvin the Catfish. Words by John Light Jr. and illustrations by Jamie R. Gandy. Good morning to you all. Let us get started. All right. Once upon a time, Pip and Joshua met on Oak Tree Hill. Pip held 2 fishing rods. Joshua carried a bucket and a can of worms. They were going to Ogeechee Lake to fish. I love that name, Ogeechee. Ogeechee Lake to fish. As they walked up Greentown Road, they passed a sign that read, "Will you catch Calvin the Catfish?" Pip's eyes widened. "I'm gonna catch Calvin," he exclaimed. Joshua reasoned, "I just want to catch a fish." When they arrived, the lake was crowded. It seemed like the whole town was there. They heard two old men talking close by. What did they say? "I know, I felt my line jump. I almost had him. I know it," exclaimed the man in the brown jacket. "Oh man, you didn't feel a thing except your belly growling. I am the one that almost caught Calvin." They continued to argue. "Besides, you didn't bring the saltwater taffy like I told you. Everyone knows you need taffy to lure Calvin." Pip turned to Joshua. "Do we have any taffy? Any taffy?" "No, we have worms," said Joshua. Joshua said. "Gummy worms," Pip hoped. No wormy worms," Joshua explained, "but I do have some cherry bubblegum." "That will have to do," Pip decided. The boys found an empty spot on the lake. They baited their lines. Joshua used worms. Pip used bubblegum. They casted their lines, and then they waited and waited and waited some more. Fishing, you have to be patient. They heard a shout. 3 sisters each pulled a brown bass out of the lake. Wow. Nothing for Joshua and Pip yet. Then there was another celebration. A teenage boy caught 4 flapping crappies at once. But Pip and Joshua had not caught anything. The boys continued to wait. Oh. An hour passed. The sisters packed up their fish and went home. Another hour passed. The teenager took off. He was happy with his haul. The boys continued to wait. Finally, the sun began to rest its eyes in the western sky. The once crowded lake was now empty. Only Pip and Joshua were left. Joshua asked, "Are you ready to go? It's getting dark." Just as Pip was about to reel in his line, something snatched at it. Pip held on as tight as he could. "Help! I got something, Joshua! Help!" Pip pleaded. Joshua grabbed Pip. The line pulled them to the left and then to the right. Then the line pulled them forward. They pulled backwards. Suddenly, a great big monster of a fish leaped out of the lake. Pip and Joshua were astonished. It was Calvin the Catfish. It seemed to wink and smile as it soared through the air. Then it plunged back into the Ogeechee. Water splashed everywhere. They were drenched. They lost their fishing rods. But there were fish all around them. They collected the fish. "No one is ever going to believe we saw Calvin the Catfish," Pip proclaimed. "I know," Joshua agreed. "But I will never forget the look on Calvin's face," Joshua mimicked. Pip and Joshua laughed as they walked home down Greentown Road. That is the end of this Joshua and Pip adventure, and I hope you enjoyed it. I certainly did. Yes, that was part 2 of the adventures of Joshua and Pip, and it is Calvin the Catfish. I hope you enjoyed it. Thank you so much for joining in story time today. Calvin, are you the one that is going to catch Calvin the Catfish? Yes, he continues to be elusive. Thank you so much for joining in story time. I hope you enjoyed that one. I certainly did. Thank you so much for joining in today. Big thank you to John Light Jr. for that amazing book. Let us see who else is with us. One more time, Cosby and Callan, thank you for joining us in Delaware, Ohio. Good to see you here. Thank you so much. Good to see you back, and I'm glad you're able to join in live today. Thank you so much. Much appreciated. Laura, thank you so much. And say, love the selection of books. Oh, thank you. No, absolutely. And recommendations are always welcome, Laura. So if you have favorites where you are, please do send them along, and I will see if we are able to read them on story time. Thank you so much, Laura. Absolutely appreciate it. And to you, Chriselle, how are you doing today? Good morning to you, Clay and Rocco. How are you doing? Thank you so much for joining in story time. Tough game last night, but I hope maybe you see out the series again. Thank you for joining in. Enjoy your baseball. Enjoy your off day today and enjoy it tomorrow. Thank you. Good morning to you one more time, Clay and Chriselle. Absolutely appreciate you. Thank you so much. Olive Oil and Patrick Rice, appreciate it. Thank you so much for joining in today. And of course, good morning to you, David and Abby as well. Thank you so much. How are you today? Good morning. And of course, Katie, good morning to you as well. Thank you. And Braveman Gibbs, how are you doing? Lucy and Wally, I am glad you're able to join in the story today. Thank you so much. You said fun story. Yay! I am glad you enjoyed it. That was part 2, the adventures of Joshua and Pip, Calvin the Catfish. And do find out more about the author on the Storytime platforms later today, of course. And this one was written by John Light Jr. and illustrations by Jamie R. Gandy. And if the name sounded familiar, of course, it's because we've had part 1 read right here on the John Pip. Good morning to you. Thank you so much for joining in. Lucy and Wally, much appreciated. Archie, I have not said hi to you in a while. Good morning to you. I hope you are well. Thank you so much. Cheryl, how are you doing? Cheryl, Smiley, Oliphant. Oh my goodness, yes. Is done for today, but remember that we're back tomorrow with an exciting story written by, of course, the lady right now in the messages. To you, Cheryl Smiley Oliphant, and tomorrow she brings us my story time, and let us see who else is with us. Yes, Cheryl Oliphant, good morning to you. I am excited about the book tomorrow, My Daddy Doesn't Need a Cape. And of course, you can find out more about Cheryl Oliphant and the Storytime platforms tomorrow after the story. Thank you so much for joining in today. To everybody that joined in, as always, it is much love from me, and I will see you tomorrow with another exciting story. And if you enjoyed today's book, please do see where you can get yourself a copy, or indeed visit your local library and get yourself a copy and enjoy the adventures of Joshua and Pip. Thank you so much for joining in today. You, John Light Jr. This week we've been celebrating creators, black authors, and we've had amazing stories, and there's that awaits tomorrow, and it is My Dad Doesn't Need a Cape. Thank you so much for joining in, everybody. Much love from me, and I will see you in the morning. Do have yourselves a beautiful day, and bye-bye.